Direct Class 3 Operations. This is one of my Aipd courses. The picture was not on the front cover, but it is on every corner of the slideshow, like it's supposed to be for these Army Institutional Professional Development slideshows. Subcourse QM5095, Edition A, Direct Class 3 Operations. Lesson 1, supervise the selection and prepare Class 3 site, critical task 101-519-3304. Alright, Part A, preparation for movement. A tactical operations of petroleum section chief you can expect to be either in the advanced party, main body during a movement operation. Since the advanced party is not actually on the ground site selection, the majority of this block instruction will be based on your role as a member of the advanced party. A section chief, the first notice you would receiving an impound move would be a warning order from your platoon order. The warning order will probably be an oral order from the general information on the time and the dates move and information on the destination and probable route. After you get a warning order, the platoon leader will probably leave the area, begin with a route and site reconnaissance of the area assigned to him by Battalion S3. While occurring, you should be preparing to move. Information needs to be passed out to your section of equipment needs to be checked. Preventive maintenance checks services need to be performed on your equipment. If you have the time, all of your equipment needs to be laid out and checked for the serviceability before it is loaded into the vehicles. When the platoon leader returns, he should have a sketch map of the platoon's route in the site. The map of the diagram should show the route in the site, the general location where each section will set up. If impossible, the side should be closed to supported units. If the tactical situation permits, the site should also be large enough to provide up 2 balanced storage sites, because you do not want to put all your product in one location. By splitting your storage assets, you reduce the possibility of losing of your product to one accident or attack. The site should also have an easy access road net, which leads with at least one road running through the supply point, but never near populated areas. These conditions should be discussed with the platoon leader prior to leaving with the advanced party, because you will be one making the final selection from the area allocated to you by the platoon leader. The advanced party. The platoon leader will make the personnel selection of the advanced party. The advanced party should consist of at least one member from each section of the company. The XO or the senior lieutenant, usually the advanced party leader. Your local standard operating procedures should detail what equipment should go with the advanced party, but at the very least you will want to bring some engineering tape, marking devices to mark off the areas you want to equip to go. Designated area. Once you have identified exactly where we want each operation to go, designate your areas with engineering tape and signs. When the main body arrives, you or your representative should personally escort each truck to its designated area. Part B, planning and engineering and support and planning. Before you begin to move the Class 3 or forward supply system point or supply point, you must develop a plan. You will need to make sure that you have all the personnel and equipment on your hand when you begin to move the supply point. Find out how much time you have to prepare your crew and equipment for the move, and are some tasks that should be taken care of before you move. These include surveying the area to which you will be moving, and coordinate with the engineering unit, developing a flow plan. Taking areas survey, going over the place where the supply point will be located to decide whether to place is entire supply point, where to place the entire supply point. Choose the arrangement of the forward supply point supply system point. The situation and terrain. Also decide whether you want the trucking, parking, bulk storage of 50,000 gallons collapsible tanks, bulk reduction, storage areas, and other bulk equipment. Coordinated engineering support. When you go to look over an area for the first time, take the members of the engineering unit with you. After you choose the site for each part of the supply point, you can give this information to the engineers. Within this information, the unit can prepare individual tank sites, remove underbrush from bulk reduction areas, clear the truck parking areas, build improved road from the site through the site if one is needed. If you do not have an engineer support, your units need to prepare the site before you start setting up the equipment at the new site. Developing a flow point. After you select the specific sites for the Class 3 supply point, develop a flow plan so that you can handle the products and containers more than is needed. The flow plan identifies the steps which can be eliminated, combined, and changed to make the operation more efficient. It can also show unnecessary delays. Handling transportation with developing the plan coordinated. Consider location, bulk storage, pack, product storage, bulk reduction, and can and drum cleaning areas. Also consider the flow of traffic through the supply point. One-way traffic should be permitted in the supply point, studying the area, making up the flow plan before the supply point moves to the new location. Part C, selection of the Class 3 supply point layout design. One of the areas has been declared safe for the use of the advanced party communication as established for the main body. Actual site selection beginnings determines the layout of the system. You should use some of the factors that the commander used in making the site section, such as adequate space to provide a storage space and all trucking parking requirements for both vehicles and your customer vehicles. Good road net with at least one of the road running through the your operations. A good road is not a trail. A good road is one that will hold up the heavy traffic and will not turn into the mud trap, which in the rains, when it rains. Locations away from the populated area. In addition, above, you need to consider the wood in the following are making your selection. Use vacated forward sites, existing facilities if possible. Many times you will be able to inherit site of the previously occupied some other units. Usually they will leave behind many improvements such as fighting position improvement for the existing road network that will be able to use for your operations. That thing does not want to. All right, avoid low areas so vapors do not get a chance to collect. Use reasonably level ground with no more than 3-degree incline on any surface. If you set up on a large incline, your storage tanks can roll when you start to fill them. Do not set upstream or troop concentration spills and accidents could pollute their water supply. Maximize use cover concealment. Often, many of the components of the Class 3 supply point can be concealed in a wooden area along a tree line. Other components can be hardly hardened with sandbags. Distance between each of the storage tank 40 feet is recommended for safe operation. However, the physical terrain features of a final site will be dictated with the actual distance between the tanks. One-way traffic flow for the checkpoints at entry and exit point. Different spaces requirement. Bulk retail package operations. The operation space service of the retail customers may not be the same as for bulk customers. Usually you will need to larger operating space for the bulk customers. With the retail customers available other than transportation modes, you should always try to take advantage of any of the rail loading facilities, barge loading points whenever possible. Alright, site selection. Site reasonably level sites that can hold a container stack. Choose a site with a good draining of the drainage if the water does not damage the containers. Avoid low area, so would be both dangerous and vapors collect in them. Do not use an area with cinder base or marshland wasteland overlaid with peat that usually are damped. They use such areas only if there is no other site available. Be sure that the site has natural cover. The concealment is large enough for the future expansions. Do not locate near the other areas of operation. Figure 1-1. Stay at least 500 feet away from the flash products and 200 feet from the 5 flash products. Your site must be away from overhead electrical lines so that the broken wire cannot fall on the drums. Clear the site of all underbrush that may get into the way. Present a fire hazard. Spread sand, gravel, and similar materials over areas where your storage containers. Help them drain in the area to provide more stable base for the stock. Do not use ash cinders because of the corrosive. Build the deck at least 18 inches high around each of the major storage divisions in which the low flash product are stored. The deck must be able to hold up all liquid in the drum stored in the area and have free board of at least 6 inches. Choose a site of at least 2 clearing incoming, outgoing areas. This will lead you to segregate incoming, outgoing mixed loads, railroad cars, and truckloads. Each should have its own site. This site should be located next to other, so that the same personnel can operate both areas. Alright, this is figure 1-1, your ideal state. And a site low with vapors collect. No cover or concealment with the enemy will see you. And site too close to population. If the city is bombed, supply point may be hit. Selection criteria of equipment. You must be able to select the site for either the equipment of the Class 3 supply point. The equipment includes 20,000 gallons collapsible tanks to 50,000 gallon collapsible tanks, 500 gallons collapsible tanks. The site you choose for 20,000 gallons collapsible tank should be similar to that of a 10,000 gallon collapsible tank. Choose a site that is nearly level with the general slope toward the manifold. The end of the tank is the tanks above 150 feet apart. Build a firewall around each tank. Make it large enough to hold the contents of the tank and 1 foot off the freeboard. To do this, build the firewall 4 feet high, 18 inches wide at the top, and make the inside dimensions of the firewall 35 feet long by 31 feet wide, maintaining a distance of 4 feet over the edge of the tank to the base of the firewall. If an engineer unit prepares the site, you must ensure that they follow the design factors. Place the discharge pumps at the lower level than the tanks to aid the pump suction. Choose a site for the 50,000 gallon collapsible tanks that are similar to those of the 10,000 and 20,000 gallon collapsible tanks. Build the firewall 4 feet high, 18 inches wide at the top. Make sure it makes the dimensions of the firewall 73 feet long by 33 feet wide. Place the discharge pumps at a level lower than the tanks to aid the pump suction. For 500 gallon collapsible drums, select a firm level site near the source of supply and select the site that allows the drums to be easily lined up for filling and rolled away areas after filling. Lesson 2. Supervising the movement of fuel system supply point. Critical Task 101, 519, 3304. Supervising the movement of fuel system supply point. Part A. Planning of the movement of the fuel system supply point. The fuel system supply point is used in the distribution points provided with the storage facilities and transfer bulk fuel from one means of the transport to another dispensing facility for the bulk reduction delivery of the fuel to the using vehicles. The fuel system supply point can receive the product with the tanker trucks, the railway cars, pipelines, hose lines, aircraft. Since it can also receive the fuel from the ocean tankers, it is collapsible and capable of subport beaching operations. It can store up to 60,000 gallons of bulk petroleum. It can store even more if the additional larger collapsible tanks are added. However, this expansion requires additional hoses, fittings, and valves. The fuel system supply point can easily be moved from one location to another. It can be divided into half and handled 2 different types of fuels with the 2 different locations. It can also be changed to a 10-point rapid refueling system for a rotary aircraft. The first step of the moving of the fuel system supply point is to receive the mission. Normally, a section chief will receive the mission of the platoon sergeant, even the platoon leader. The mission can come into one of the 3 different ways: the warning order, the operation order, the fragmented order. One received that there are some questions you need to ask yourself. What is the mission? What do you know about the enemy? How will the train affect the operation? What troops are available? How much time is available? What supplies, equipment are needed? And what special tasks need to be assigned? Personnel. Make sure all the personnel on hand are forwarded to move to the new site. The usual strength level of the supply section of Multi Petroleum Supply Company consists of a section chief E7 Petroleum Heavy Vehicle Operator E5, Petroleum Inventory Control E5, and 2 Petroleum Heavy Vehicle Operators E4, and 5 Petroleum Supply Specialists E4, and 10 Petroleum Supply Specialists E3. In some situations, you will have an augmented personnel. Equipment. Make sure your Class 3 supply point and equipment is on hand, ready for use. If any of the items are not working properly, try to have them repaired, replaced, and before you move. The equipment may vary according to the situation. 1 fuel system supply point, 1 collapsible fabric tank, repair kit, 3 500-gallon collapsible drums, 3 pressure controls for filling the non-vented drums, 1 500-gallon collapsible drum tie-down kit, 1 500-gallon collapsible towing lifting yoke, 6 550,000 gallon collapsible tanks, 4 20,000 gallon collapsible tanks, 4 10,000 gallon collapsible tanks, 10 350 gallon per minute pump assemblies, 1 fuel handling hose line outfit, assault hose line, 1 electrical floodlight, 1 gas engine generator, 3 kilowatts, 8 filter separators, 1 fare system. Make sure you have the necessary vehicles needed to transport the equipment to the new site for the semi-trailer stake of the 12-ton with the equipment for 4 tractor trailers, 5-ton 6x6 long wheelbase with the equipment, 2 cargo trucks, 5-ton 6x6 long wheelbase with equipment, 2 cargo trucks, 1.5-ton 2-wheel with equipment. Loading. Next, you must develop a loading and intensive plan, issuing a warning order to give the soldiers to prepare them for the mission. Determine the total number, type of the fuels of the transport needed to move the done direct product on on hand, determine the type of the number of the transporters needed to move the system, determine the type of the number of the transporters needed to move the personnel. This shows the vehicle loading car, fuel formula, vehicle loaded car. This is the shipment unit packing list and load diagram, DA form 5745R. March 89. Your plan for loading personnel equipment should apply to every type of the transporter that may be used in a movement. Make the plan before the move. Allow the time for the packing. Base your plan on the type of the transporter used, with the number of the persons involved, with the type, the size, weight, and quantity, and supplies equipment to be moved. When preparing the plan, consider the priority loading and the safety equipment of the supplies in transit. Design the plan to permit the quickly order. Once the equipment is loaded, make sure they're properly secured and make sure the pumps are blocked, braced, and tied. Before you complete your plan, need to have an idea where you operate, what terrain looks like. Consult with the latest intelligence map of impossible conduct reconnaissance. Walk around the area. Then this will give you an idea about the time and the type of the terrain in which you will be working. Information for the reconnaissance can either be changed or delay the mission. Once you complete your plan, issue the operation order. When you complete the operation, issue your order orally. When you possibly issue the order from the location where your soldiers can see the object, they cannot be done. The terrain module or sketch you wish it. When you issue the complete order, make sure that the soldiers you understand it. Make sure they know how to accomplish the mission and how they fit the overall plan. Explain to them what to do if they lose communication. Make sure you give the order in language they understand. Final step of the troop leading procedure is supervision. After issuing the warning order, you must diligently, constantly check details, conduct back briefings, rehearsals, and before operation begins, inspection. Troop leading and procedures have helped prepare to your soldiers if any of the type of operation logical step-to-step procedures. Use it as a mental checklist to make sure you do not overlook anything important. Keep in mind that no single individual can do everything by himself or herself, not even you. Use your subordinates, get your job done right. Communication status report. The unit of the status produces the information to help the Army manage its resources. The payoff of the military readiness the Army wants the company to have an authorized personnel on board. It is authorized equipment available in working order is required supplies on hand. Additional Army wants the company to do what it's supposed to do, turn the order out. The soldiers who assist the unit mission, petroleum supply sergeant assist the platoon sergeant supervising two-shift operations and maintain close coordinated with the petroleum operations sergeant every 24 hours. The status report data. The supply sections will consolidate with the report will be sent with the supply control section. The format of the status report should be detailed in both company and battalion standard operation procedures. Part B, selecting the site for the Class 3 supply point and the fuel system supply point operation. Critical selection for the critical fuel system supply point. When you select the fuel system supply point, consider cover, concealment, road, net, dispersion factors, terrain, site of preparation requirements. Make sure the site is suitable for fuel system layout of Figure 2.3.2.4 and Table 2.1. Select the site of the collapsible tank, pumps, and filter separators that is in woods or in a tree line with a natural shadow disguised with tell-tape shapes. Use camouflage nets if you have them. When you lay hose line, make sure the natural terrain contours vegetation to break up straight lines. One way to do this is to cut branches, stick them in each around the hose, and the way them down with a hose line. Whether you have deep grass or other vegetation, bend it over the hose line to hide the hose and so that it is not seen from the air. Choosing for either receiving the truck bottom of the vehicle fuel refueling points that is next to the road and Class 3 supply point. You can load and unload trucks of refuel vehicles without leaving the road nets and supply system. You must consider the distance between the items when you select the site, but the equipment of the fuel system supply point distance can vary for the terrain, natural cover, concealment, hose availability of the road nets. However, they must put a 10,000 gallon collapsible tanks over at least 40 feet apart. Select the level train for the fuel system supply point. Look for the tank site without a slope. A large slope may be caused by the filled tanks to roll sideways, backward, forward. Put the pumps and filter separators on level ground. Try to place the discharge pump at the lower level of the collapsible tanks so that there will be good suction to the pump. Deal with the three major items equipment of the fuel system supply point, collapsible tanks of the pump, and the filter separators. Slip the tanks slightly, gently toward the manifold to help them drain tanks whenever they are removed. Slope the site from each of the tank no more than 3 to 6 inches from the direction of the tank's filter port. or a fill port, and build a firewall around each tank. Make it large enough to hold their contents for the tank. 1 foot of freeboard. To do this, for the build the firewall 3 foot high and 18 inches wide at the top. Make sure the inside of the dimension of the firewall is 26 feet by 26 feet, maintaining a distance of 3 feet from the edge of the tank to the base of the firewall. If an engineer unit prepares the site, you must ensure that the following dimensional and procedure specifications of the pump and filter separator sites must be cleared from any of the dry glass and leaves and trash. Alright, the U arrangement gives the collapsible tanks on the side with the top starting from the receiving point of the receiving pump, the filter separations into the collapsible points, and then to the delivery point with the fuel system separators to the bottom loading points, 500 collapsible drum filling points, and nozzles. The rectangular arrangement has rectangular arrangement. Receiving point, the receiving pump filter separator goes in a square, and then to the delivery point, filter separator, bottom loading points, 500 gallon collapsible drums, filling points, nozzles. There also is a semicircular arrangement where the collapsible tanks are stuck in a semicircle, and they go from the delivery pump to the fuel system separators, one side of the receiving pump to the other side of the receiving point. While the filter separator goes to the receiving pump and then the nozzle 500 gallon collapsible drum, filling points, bottom loading points. The V arrangement shows the collapsible tanks in a V arrangement from the receiving point, receiving pump, filter separators, collapsible tanks to the delivery pump to the filter separator, to the nozzles 500 gallon collapsible drum, filling points, and bottom loading points. Alright, your 5,000 gallon tankers. Shows the tanks on the left, and it shows the different the key. You see the quick action key valve, the gate valve, filter separator, hose assembly, Y assembly, T assembly, reducers, pump plug, and cap and nozzle. The 5,000 gallon tankers are on the left, and they go through a suction discharge on the hose, and then through two different Ys, different T assemblies. Alright, your description and tank listing, your 10,000 gallon description of all the kits. The GPA's navigation. Each satellite transmits a new signal that contains the data needed with the SLGR. To mean your location, signal cannot penetrate objects of the building, which metal mountains or other very thick vegetation. Your body tends to block it. Cloud, rain, snow, even severe weather have little effect on the canvas. Kevlar covers do not affect either. If you're receiving signals from enough satellites, the SLGR will tell you this. Move to a more open position away from the building's steep slopes so that the antenna can receive the signals. Since the satellites are always moving, sometimes the short wait is needed until the 3 or 4 satellites have moved into the view of the receiver. Go to the setup units page to set the elevation of the MSL, DEG, and MAG. Set up the satisfy the MAG VAR page of the CALC and DEG. Set the time, perform the setup I/O. Required set the auto mark mode to the off. Set the bullseye screen required and set the operator if required. Set the approach if required. Set the reversal if required. Initialize the unit. Obtain the position. Record the estimated position error, time error, data time. Date and day, speed, satellite being tracked, datum, magnetic variation, if required for the zoom in and range to the bullseye, enter the store waypoint, state the navigation mode to the 2D fastest direction, select the waypoints, record distance, track a zoom of the way to the point, navigate to a waypoint. Part C, supervising movement of the fuel system supply point. Next task, the director of the preparation of the fuel system supply point equipment for the transportation makes the system drain all the product, ensure that the spill are cleaned up and reported as required in unit. The policy, procedure, applicable environmental laws, dispose of the contaminated fuel materials in an environmental safe way in accordance with the unit policy, procedures, applicable environmental laws. Direct personnel to roll and fold the collapsible tanks, pull them into the storage containers, attach the caps and plugs to the hose assemblies as they are dismantled. Make sure your equipment is properly loaded and components are correctly placed, blocked, braced, and need to prevent damage during the transport. Movement methods. Moving and displacement of the supply point consists of taking it down at once and loading it into transporters, moving it to a new site. The two ways that you can do this is one way that depends on your situation. One way is to move the entire supply point to a new site. The other way is to move by leapfrogging. This means one half of the fuel system supply point to a new site, leaving the other half at the old site to give limited service. If this way, the support to the users, if not uninterrupted during the move. Dividing the system in half, the first thing you wanted to do move is transfer the product in the supply point to fuel transfer. In order to tell the drivers of the vehicles how to get to the new site or to meet the points where they can exchange the trailers and transfer the load to other tanker vehicles. You can also use the load transporter as a store issue product with a temporary basis on an old new supply point. You can start taking down the supply point just as soon as the move for the fuel sequence in which you take down the equipment should be based on the requirements of the old and new sites. Usually dismantle the fuel system supply point first unless you're using a leapfrog method. In case of important that you will work quickly once an order is given, you remain concerned to gain the new site as soon as possible to get set up. Bulk reduction storage area. Set up in the bulk reduction storage area, separate storage stocking area with each of the product type of the package. If you have an area with for each of your inventory control of the stock more easily, cannot easily be identified with the product incorrectly. The blocking system separates a large amount of storage supplies so that the entire stock of the one product is not lost, and if there is enemy attack or a fire. The plan is exactly layout, size, and stacking areas according to local conditions. Safety requirements: axles between double rows of the drums, usually 9 to 10 feet wide. You can reduce the width of 4 feet, but it leaves enough room to handle the product. Allow 15 to 30 feet with the axles between sections of containers, 50 to 100 feet between the blocks. A specific layout of the stacking area to 50-gallon cans is suggested. Part D, environmental consideration. Supply storage and facilities are often containing the hazardous material. You must take the precautions storing and transporting these materials. Keep a copy of applicable material safety data sheets for the hazardous material on hand by the binder in the storage area. You can support the installation of environmental goals in supply areas doing the following: compliance with the store materials according to the manufacturer's guidelines as stated in the material safety data sheets. Prevention: reduce the amount of solid waste and the hazardous waste in the supply room, avoiding the stockpiling, keeping the items around just in case they are needed. Reuse the containers whenever possible. Recycle materials as required by your installation recycling program. Conservation: dispose all the solid waste and hazardous waste according to local policy. Lesson 3: supervising operation of the fuel system supply point. Critical task 101-519-3304. Part A, supervising the operation fuel system supply point. Flow through the fuel system supply point. If the fuel is, when it arrives, the product enters the system through the receiving manifold. It usually moves under suction from one of the 350-gallon pumps used with the receiving pump. The product may also use under the positive pressure for the use of the transporter, pipeline, hose line, and when both the filter separator is installed with the delivery side of the system, the receiving pump distributes the product directly to the tanks through the hose line manifold, with the other 350-gallon pump is used to draw the fuel from the tanks to discharge it through the 250 through two filter separators in the hose head of the system. When the one filter separator is installed with the receiving side of the system, the receiving pump distributes the product receiving filter separator to the collapsible tanks. After the flow of the product is same, exempt the fuel system drain through the one filter separator on the discharge side of the system, instead of the two. You can also draw the supply system directly to the discharge side of the system. This product reduces bypass of the storage tanks. You need only one pump and one filter separator for this operation. Flow through the 50,000-gallon collapsible tank. The first step of the inspection product of the fuel is that enters from the transport through the receiving manifold made with the of a suction hose and gate and valve. The product usually made under the suction of a 350-gallon pumping assembly that distributes into the 50,000-gallon collapsible tank. Another 350-gallon pump assembly acts as a discharge pump, distributes the fuel from the tank to the discharge hose assembly. The discharge hose assembly consists of the gate valve, the discharge hose. From the discharge hose assembly, the product moves into transport. Figure 3.1. Receipt inspection. Take a sample. Receive manifold hose, 350-gallon pump hose, 150,000-gallon hose tank, hose, 350-gallon pump pump assembly, hose discharge issue into the key transportation operation stored and inspection. Personnel. How you use the personnel in one of the most important parts of managing the Class 3 points. In other words, how many do you need to a specific operation? Where should you place them? In relation to the equipment, what tasks should be given to do? Is it important that you assign the specific task and the personnel to the Class 3 supply point, which should be also try the flexible best way to use it? If all personnel wisely is led to the job, determine the assignment. For example, if you have no issue scheduled for the fuel system supply point, you can use the workers assigned there to improve the firewalls around the collapsible tanks. There may be a time when the supply point or a section of it is not busy. You may then use a walker to improve the camouflage concealment of the area, improve the drainage ditches, roads, ways, make sure the safety equipment is serviceable to operate with the organizational maintenance of the equipment of the supply point, and the number of persons your assignment to specific task may vary greatly. With your mission, is still possible to obtain the average number of each operation. The fuel system supply point operation. For the single ship, you need 8 workers to operate the fuel system supply point efficiently and place them in certain strategic points of the operation described below. Receiving side, assign 2 workers to receiving manifold, make them responsible for transferring the bulk petroleum from the transporter to the fuel system. The operators of all valves at the receiving point make all necessary hose connections, pump the valves. All 3 workers of the pump the control valves have one work operator. Each of the pump and then 1/3 worker controls the valve of the discharge, receiving the manifold of the collapsible tank. One of the pumps has started. They may be monitored. One worker then enables the 2 workers to devote their full time to valve control fuel flow problems. Dispense side, assign 3 workers to delivery side of the system, 6 5-gallon can and 55-gallon drum filling points to 2 500-gallon collapsible drum filling points. Make them responsible for dispensing petroleum and the controlling flow. Prepare the various filling points, operating with control valves, making sure all necessary hose connections when the tank vehicles is filled. Have the truck driver help dispense the fuel. 50-gallon collapsible tank operation. For the single shift, you need 4 workers to operate the 50,000-gallon collapsible tanks. You generally have one 50,000-gallon collapsible tank, 350-gallon pumping assemblies, 1 receivable, 1 discharge pump, 1 dispensing line, 1 in the Class 3 supply point. You have 50,000-gallon collapsible tank, mainly the large volume distribution of bulk petroleum. Place the workers as follows. Place 1 worker with the receiving point. Make sure the worker is responsible for the truck transferring bulk petroleum from the transporter to the tank. However, the worker operated with the valve. Make all necessary hose connections. Place 1 worker at each of the 2 350-gallon pump assemblies. Make each worker responsible for coordinating the flow of the petroleum. Place 1 worker on the dispensing line. Make sure the worker is responsible. Issue work petroleum, controlling the flow fuel flow in the dispensing line. The 500 collapsible drum filling operation. You need only 2 workers to do this job efficiently. However, there are several methods of filling of the 500 collapsible drums. 2 of the most commonly used methods of filling the drums directly through the fuel system supply point to the 50-gallon pump. 50-gallon pump pumping assembly. The position and tasking of the crew vary from each of these methods. With the drum filled with the directly to fuel system supply point, assigning 1 of the workers to control the valve at the filling point. Make this worker responsible for controlling the flow of the petroleum to the drums. Assigning the other workers to the drums, making sure the worker responsible for preparing the drums for the filling, making all the connections, monitoring the filling operation, using a 50-gallon pump assembly. Use and still needed the 2 workers at the filling operation, having 1 worker operate the 50-gallon pump assembly and the control flow petroleum, assigning the other drums with the same responsibility as the methods described below or before. Both methods, you need the vehicle to remove the filled drums to the bulk reduction storage area. The 55-gallon drum filling operations, although usually to fill the 55-gallon drums directly to fuel system supply point, you can use a 50-gallon pumping assembly with the hose and fitting kit. When you use the 6 fuel, land, oil surface nozzles on the fuel system supply point, you need 1 worker to each of the nozzles. You can also need workers bring the empty drum to the filling point, 2 workers to remove the filled drums to the bulk reduction storage. Make 6 workers at the servicing nozzle responsible for the bonding of the nozzle containers filling drums to the proper level. If you have a forklift, use it to move the filled drums to the storage area. The 5-gallon can filling operation. The 2 methods of filling the 5 cans. You can use the fuel, oil, surface nozzling, and the fuel system supply, or the 50-gallon pumping assembly with the hose and the fitting kit. The number of the workers you need to fill these cans varies for the methods used. When your cans are filled directly from the fuel system supply point operation, essentially the same as a 55-gallon drum. When your cans are refilled with using the 50-gallon pumping assembly with the hose fitting kit, you need 7 workers. Because the method is usually conducted near the bulk reduction storage area, you need only 1 worker to bring the empty cans, one to remove the filled ones, and also have one worker operate the 50-gallon pump, assembling, controlling the flow operation, placing one worker into each forward suspension nozzles of the hose fitting kits, and have them bond the nozzles to the cans and fit them properly to their proper level. Receipt. Before the product arrives, you should be notified of the type of the amount of the product, approximately date and time that it will arrive. They'll give you the time and the prepare for the delivery schedule to avoid delays. Interpretations. Class 3 supply point. Storage area. Tactical Class 3 supply point. You should always store the bulk petroleum in collapsible tanks. If you have supply section petroleum supply company, you can store 420,000 gallons of bulk petroleum, 120 gallons in the fuel system supply point, 300,000 gallons in the 5,000 gallon collapsible tanks. But storage is much more than putting bulk product in the tank. It involves such things as inspection, product circulation, tank repair, even the disposal excess product. Storage bulk petroleum can be dangerous as it receipts issues. So always follow procedures. Inspections are the key finding of how well the Class 3 supply point is in performing. Give you the first-hand information on how the equipment of the products are maintained with the day-to-day inspection, letting you make on-the-spot corrections. I give you the information on the availability required. Publications require accuracy of supply records, procedure, supply economy practices, care of the tools and equipment, status of the authorized stock, levels of equipment and repair parts. Product consolidation and circulation. When the consolidation and circulated product, you simplify move it into one storage tank at the supply point to another. You should consolidate your stock, and several storage tanks are filled with the product with several area empty. This way you can reduce the issue larger quantities of the bulk petroleum. Short notice, you can also cut down on the number of the tank switches you have them make during the receipt issue. Circulate the stock and if your supply point so that the heavier portions of the product do not settle at the bottom of the tank. The light ends do not come to the top. And also circulation ensures the good mixture of all the additives in the fuel. Disposable excess. If you're in the Canas or any overseas activity, you have an excess bolts or package and fuels of 500 gallons more than per product grade. Report excess, sending the message to the commander U.S. APC, including the message of the quantity, type of the product, and NSN, and the latest laboratory test results. If you are in overseas command, also report the excessive appropriate Defensive Fuel Supply Center Field Officer JPO. Issue consideration. Issue the bulk petroleum is perhaps the most important responsibility you have with the Class 3 supply point. The reason you are filled with this is to get large quantities of petroleum with the unit support in the theater operation. You issue the liquid petroleum in bulk as forward tactical situations permit. Usually the units of the support pick up the bulk petroleum from the supply point in their own vehicles. When you use the fuel system supply point, make the bulk issue from the bottom of the loading points, but before issuing the bulk petroleum from your Class 3 supply point, before any transporters arrive, you must prepare an issue schedule. Start telling your customer how much and what type of the product you have on hand, and when he can pick it up, and if the transporters deliver the product, and the customer when it will arrive at the supply point to try to avoid delays. Interpretations. When you are scheduling issues, that it does not and schedule transporters to arrive at the supply point, then can handle it at one time. And also ensure that you have enough product on hand to fill all scheduled issues. Safety and security items. Once you have the supply point set up, you must make steps to make sure it is secure and safe and secure. Set up the checkpoints at the entrance and one exit of the operating area. Give personnel coming into the area safety briefing on the entrance checkpoint. Use the checkpoints not only to control the vehicles going in and out, but also to account the receipt issues and petroleum for the supply point. To develop a fire point, you must also set up a different type of the signs for the area operation. Place the stock locator signs, petroleum storage areas, including bulk reduction storage sites. Place the signs identifying no smoking areas, dangerous areas throughout the supply point. You must also set up a speed control and traffic direction signs. Part B, Defense Plan, a Rear Area Protection, or RAP. The Rear Area Protection operation is defined in all actions taken with preventing, neutralizing, and localized enemy threats to the unit's activities and installations in the rear area includes areas damage control, ADC, and the prevention control measures which are taken before, during, and after an attack, natural disaster to minimize an effect. Together, these actions represent and add dimension to the responsibility theater area command, or TAACOM. Corps Support Command, COSCOM, Division Support Command, DISCOM commanders. Thus, the combat these service support units must have diverted the temporarily the primary missions in the rear area protection task of the local service security base, defense and firefighting, decontamination, emergency medical treatment, the traffic control. The commander responsibility repair rear area protection operations determine the manner and the extent to which these units divert. The theater area, the command overall responsibility of the rear area protection within the comms E, and the Corps, the Department of the Deputy, the Commander, and the Rear Area Protection Officers direct the rear area battle to assist the individuals defining their assigning the rear area protection responsibility, rear area operations containing Rear Area Operations Centers, RAOC, assigned to each of the TACCOM support group, the Corps Rear Area Operations Center mission to plan, coordinate, advise, monitor, and assist directing the execution of the rear area battle. Petroleum units interface with the rear area operations center. Phases of the rear area protection may be divided into two phases: the preparation phase and the operation phase. The preparation phase includes the preventive readiness measures taken before the enemy attack. The operations range for the initial planning of the actual reconnaissance, surveillance, counterintelligence operations. Make sure that taken during the phase of the end, establishing local security elements, organizing equipment training, and out units specifically designed for these missions. Assigning areas, responsibility, establish communications, warning systems, standard authorization procedures, written, rehearsed, routing, patrolling, and convoy escorting are carried out. The operation phase includes the measure taken during and after an attack of a natural disaster. The action beginning with the incident occurs includes the unit sending a report to the commander concerning the nature and extent of the damage. The reports allow the necessary estimates order the establishing route clearance, the redirecting supply flow. These interpretations support the combat force, reduce the combat force, receive the data in time to change the priorities, tactical plans if needed by the fire prevention. Fighting actions are conducted, salvage and search, recovery operations beginning in order the traffic and personal movement controls are established. If necessary, the nuclear, biological, chemical decontamination is begun and emergency supplies are distributed and communications are reestablished. Petroleum group, the extent to which the petroleum group becomes involved with the rear area protection prescribed by the higher authority of the group of the unit is standing ready to participate in these operations directed, but consequently the group's security officers stay in the close contact with the rear area operations center. The group of the security officers supervise the development of the petroleum group rear area protection plans, procedures, secure directments, and implement the plans and procedures subordinate elements. Protection of petroleum supplies. Protective measures for the petroleum supplies include special packaging, proper storage, dispersing supplies, installation protection against chemical contamination, nuclear fallout, maximum use of natural or artificial protective shelters, other shielding devices, advantage of taking natural cover camouflage for the pipelines located above the ground. Underground pipelines are used whenever possible. Embankments, underground storage facilities can easily be effectively used to reduce the blast damage. The suspension of package supplies limits and keeps them under the control fires. To start the result of the nuclear explosion, cares must be taken the combustible materials to minimum around the petroleum supply installations. Demolition is command responsible. It is performed only at the last resort, only to prevent supplies and equipment from falling into the enemy's hands, except the emergency demolition is performed only on orders from the higher headquarters unless otherwise specified, but petroleum stocks are destroyed by burning. Parts of the environmental consideration, supply storage facilities of the other husband material. You must take precautions storing the transportation of the materials. You keep the copy of the applicable material safety data sheets from each of the hazmat on hand in a binder of the storage area. You can support the installation environmental goals in supplying areas during the following compliance storage materials according to the manufacturer guidelines as stated in the military material safety data sheets. Prevention, reducing the amount of solid waste and hazardous waste in the supply room by avoiding stockpiling. Keeping items around just in case they are needed to reuse the container whenever possible. Recycle. Make sure materials required for the installation recycle program. Conservation dispose all solid waste hazardous material as waste according to local policy. Part D. Preventive maintenance check services. Emergency tank repair. If there any of the collapsible tank develop a leak and repair them at once. Emergency repair items. Figure 3.2 and 3.3. These two methods of repair. One is sealing plugs and the one uses sealing clamps. The use depends on the size of the rupture. Using a sealing plug if the hole of the tank of 3/8 of an inch or smaller. Use a sealing clamp if the hole is larger than 3/8 of an inch. Whenever the method is used, ensure that you put rubber gloves and protective hood before starting the repairing operation. It shows your Type 1 rotary cool kit, wooden plugs, pliers, sealing plugs, and canvas pouch for holes not greater than 3/8 of an inch. Type 2 repair kit, container, sealing plugs, protective hood, wood plugs, sealing clamps, knife for holes greater than 3/8 of an inch for the tears up to 7 inches. Using plugs, it shows how to plug the plugs using clamps. Forms. During operation of the fuel system supply point, operation maintenance is performed on the pump filter separator related to the equipment. Forms are prepared to schedule inspection, preventive maintenance, and are recorded to result in the inspection of the needs of repair. They also use the report preventive maintenance performed to mill repairs made and request services, support maintenance, and additional forms are used to keep the track of the equipment and the use of the service and provided the data reports on the condition and status of equipment. The DOD Form 314 preventive maintenance schedule record is used to show the equipment is scheduled periodic preventive maintenance when maintenance has been performed. The DA Form 2404 equipment maintenance inspection worksheet is used to report the faults and malfunctions discovered on the equipment. Operator of the DA Form 2407 maintenance request is used through organizational maintenance personnel mainly to request the support maintenance. The DA Form 2409 equipment maintenance log consolidated is used to keep the complete maintenance history on one piece of equipment. The DA Form 4177 utilities inspection service record is usually scheduled inspection preventive maintenance on the fixed utility or structure such as a storage tank. Lesson 4, direct assault hose line operation critical task 101-519-3315. Assault introduction. The assault line hose line intended to use the temporary pipeline can transport fuel's maximum rate of 500 to 550 barrels per hour across 10 miles of flat terrain, and the use of the assault hose line, the transportation bulk petroleum, has become increasingly important as expedient means of providing adequate quantities of bulk petroleum in the shortest time possible. Of the petroleum in the shortest time. Part A, the assault hose line system, referred to the Field Manual 1067-1. Concepts of equipment operations, concepts and equipment of petroleum operations, Chapter 27 illustrates more detailed description of assault hose line equipment. 6 soldiers following the equipment are needed to lay out the assembly of the hose line. 13 flacking boxes, 4 inches lightweight collapsible rubber hoses is packed in a flacking box within 1,000 feet of the box. Unit 1, 350 gallon per minute. The pumping assembly with the 350 gallon per minute pump is equipped with the pressure regulator that controls the idle pump with the adjuster of the pressure. If significant, decrease the pressure in the hose line. A flow control kit consists of 2 4-inch gateways, 1 4-inch 2 T's, 2 check valves, 2 4-inch hose assemblies, 1 strainer assembly, 1 roll of electrician's tape, couplings, nipples, and adapters, and coupling halves. 2 steel roadway crossing guards. Roadway crossing guards must be installed to protect the hose line when it across the roadway. The hose suspension kit. The hose line suspension kit consists of 350 feet of wire rope, 350 manila rope with a 25 wire rope clip, 60 shackles, 60 hose saddles, 14 steel pickets, 14 steel blocks, 4 turnbuckles, and 4 wire rope thimbles. The hose line displacement evacuation kit. The hose line displacement evacuation kits consist of a ball and Jaker ball receiver, displacement ball with an air inductor, and 8 group couplings and 16 pipe caps. A hose line packing kit. The hose line packing kit consists of the chain hoist, a hose puller, 2 hose clamps, and metal storage chest. The hose repair kit. The repair kit contains tools, materials needed to repair the hose line system. Part B, safety environmental consideration. Prior to the start of the mission, the troops must be briefed on the safety environmental hazards that they may encounter. The briefing should include the proper response to such hazards, other than information which will enable to correctly address the less serious infractions independently. Each mission encompasses different situation and interactions, such as needed to develop mission-specific briefing for each. Therefore, no solutions will be presented in this lesson. If your experience does afford you on if your experience does not afford you on a basis for preparing briefing, and supervisors should be contacted before additional information. Part C, supervising layout and assembly of the testing of the assault hose line. Check the route, select the direct route for the free of the obstacles, if possible, to parallel to existing the road to the aid construction operation security route. Parallel to the second all-weather road is better, but the heavy traveled main supply road and taking advantage of the natural cover such as the defense line, woods, hedge rows, however, they do not disturb the natural cover of the grading level, and try to avoid rocky areas where there might be damage to the hose. If possible, distribute the hose at a speed of up to 35 miles per hour. However, the recommended practice is 20 miles an hour. The hose is distributed men spread out along the route at least 2 each 1/2 mile quarter mile. A walk line straight out of the desirable kinks and bends and remove the small obstruction which might cause the damage with the hose pressurized and distributed on a roadway. Hose must be picked up with the roadway itself and moved into position of road ditch figure 1. The hose coupling shows the hose line dropping out the flaking boxes. Cross-streaming, the several ways you can lay a hose line across the stream or water course. There is the bridge suspended with the hose line and provides brackets. Outside of the bridge railing, there is no bridge. You may use the hose line directly in the stem if it is narrow and not adapt to flood. Use a hose line suspension kit to keep across the wide stream. The fabric saddles with the eyes and easy wire attachments come with the crossing gaps. You should also use the hose line suspension kit to span small gaps with a steep side for wide crossing, building a suspension bridge for the flat deck of the floor to hold the hose. Eliminates the sag that occurs with the suspension kit is used. Crossing roads. To cross the highway or the railroad, running the hose line under the bridge or through the culvert is possible. You can also pull the hose line through the culvert with a rope pushing it through the piece of lumber, small diameter pipe. If there's no bridge, install the roadway crossing. If there's no bridge, install the roadway crossing guard to protect the hose line. Never bury an unprotected hose line in a railway bed. Whenever crossing a rail bed, you can either install the piece of a heavy wall pipe in shallow ditch under the rails, or suspend a hose over the rail bed at a suitable height as soon as possible. Replace the hose line at a railway crossing with a welded pipe because of the fire hazards caused by trains. Pumping station. Assault hose line pumping station have one 350-gallon pump assembly. If you're using one hose line outfit placed in the pumping assembly at the beginning of the hose line system because the pump does not have the pressure regulating device, you must monitor at all times changing the hose line pressure. You may set up the pumping station. You connect the hose line outfits together. The formula, you can locate the pumping station on level ground motor gasoline hose line. If you protect the motor gasoline, the distance between the pump line system, give the formula. Change, for example, if you protect a heavier than motor gasoline motor pump station should be closer. If you protect the lighter than the motor gasoline pump station should be farther than the distance between the pump station given the form. Also change the height of the terrain. For example, if you place a hose line on the upslope, pumping stations should be closer together. If you place the hose line downhill slope, then the pumping station should be farther apart. Alright, hose line. Once you have set up the assault hose line, fill and pressure, check it out of the hose line for the checks, and start the slap slowly. Alright, hose line testing. Once you have set up the assault hose line, fill and pressurize it, check the hose line for leaks. Start the pump slowly, raise it to full fluid pressure in the system gradually, increments of 50 psi. However, the pressure at each time to raise it, inspect the hose line for leaks. Keep doing this, include the 150 psi, even though the design burst pressure of the hose higher. Your test should not exceed the rate safety work pressure of 150 psi. The line pressure does not build up, and slap the check line hose line for the leak. And you can also use fixed leaks of the coupling fittings involved with the tightening, adjusting, and replacing gaskets. Observe operation safety, environmental interactions. Immediately shut down operations. Correct any problems detected. Part D, supervising evacuation and displacement of the hose line. Remove the fuel vapor and air from the hose line, causing the hose line to collapse with the flat ribbon-like with the fuel. This allows the most compact storage for the hose for the transportation. The next side the hose line is evacuated as follows. Remove the ball from the ball receiver. Replace it with an airtight cap. Use the blank cap with the groove coupling on the inlet and disconnect the compressor hose from the ball injector. Attach the suction connection to the air educator. Attach the air compressor hose to the inlet side of the educator adductor, or set the pressure to 20 to 25 psi. Operate with the educator approximately 10 minutes for each 1,000 feet of hose line. When the hose is flattened as most possible, fold it back, tie a knot, and remove the ball injector and the educator. When displacing the assault hose line, pass the hose for the flacking box. Pack the hose into the flacking box, making successful folds from left to right using reach of the front. Make sure the bend is such so that the hose fit in the entire width of the box. Also make sure that the folds are packed tightly together so that you can get 1,000 feet of the hose into the box. If the temperature below is 40 degrees Fahrenheit, you may have to use a hose line packing kit to get the hose line in the flacking box. Part E, maintaining communication breakdown, single non-equipment related to item which can start and each of the domino effect capable of bringing the entire mission literally to a halt. Miscommunication regarding the emergency shut-off of the assault hose line could leave the fuel system supply point of the fare system without a source of fuel that stranded dozens of aircraft vehicles miles of secondary source of fuel. Vulnerability of such vehicles is the loss of these enemy cannot be overstated. Accurately timed communication with all the level of supply team command of the headquarters is imperative to the success of any mission from requiring the fuel system supply point fare or assault hose line. Any efficient communication system is most an efficient communication system is must in operation maintenance of military pipelines. Systems must be separate the continuous dependable. The communication system must be high quality transmission, take keep of errors and minimum enough channels or circuits to carry out the traffic loading efficiency product connections to avoid details immediately alternate systems so that there were no interpretations in pipelines. Alright, lesson 5. Directed for the assembly, operation, of preventive maintenance check services, disassembly of the forward area refueling equipment or fare. The unit refueling operation of the theater operation usually carried out in the individual aviation unit lightweight air transportable refueling system used for the unit level at present. The system authorized most units with the mission refuel aircraft with the forward area refueling equipment of their fare system. The system can be set up with a skilled personnel within 15 minutes of delivery to the site. The fare system is designed to refuel helicopters in forward areas in lightweight. It can be thrown following the refueling aircraft point of the helicopter or fixed wing aircraft. The fueling system is usually flown to the side of the 500-gallon collapsible drum. The forward area refueling equipment system can also vary various sizes of collapsible tanks and vehicles and semi-trailers as fuel sources. Pumping assemblies, filter separators, valves, and fittings. Pumping assembly. The pumping assembly is made up of a 100-gallon minute per central figure pump. The 2-cylinder, 4-cycle, 3 horsepower gasoline engine power is the pump. The inlet and outlet connection 2 inches in diameter. The pump that has a priming port on the top of the pumping case. The pumping assembly engine fuel tanks are also housed in the tubular and aluminum frame. The filter separator, 100-gallon minute per minute. The separator for the aluminum tank with removable cover. The 5 filter elements for each of the canisters set in the mounting plate near the bottom of the tank. The filter separator has an air vent valve with a pressure differential that indicator the water site gas and water drain valve is turned by hand. The flow rate of the filter separator is 100 gallon per minute at the top, working pressure at 75 psi. The discharge hose suction hose at the fitting of the fare system has 2 sets of discharge fittings of the nozzles. Each set is mounted in the tubular frame, 2 canvas carrying segation for the suction hose, and their fittings of the fire extinguishers are components of the fuel area refueling equipment system, forward area refueling equipment system, provided with the extinguishing of the command with the responsibility for 3 fire extinguishers are required for the fare system using an aircraft refueling only to be within the reach of the pump operator, only one for the use of the nozzle. Recommended the fire extinguisher of the 20 pounds Halon 1211. No fuel source is provided as a component of the fare system. Generally, a 500-gallon collapsible drum are used because they can be airlifted fuel to the fare point, but the fare system can also be adapted to large fuel reservoirs, nor drums or tanks, as well as the type of the fuel to be used, and determine the number, type of the aircraft, and the air point is, and for support. Part B, planning. The S3 Aviation Battalion Operation Officers of Aviation Company plan for the unit operation parts of these plans. You should choose the general of the refueling, specifies the amount of the type of the refueling support needed for the pathfinder time. Teams must choose the site with enough of the ground for the aircraft to lift and to land and lift off safely. The site must be flat and have only a slight grade. When the planning of the layout of the fare system, the 5 factors must be considered. Spacing between the aircraft. There must be at least 100 feet of space between the aircraft, the center of the rotor, and the center of the rotor. Wind direction, the layout of the fare system so that the helicopter can land, refuel, and take it off into the direct headwind or left or right quartering headwind. Vapor collection, the system should be right angles to the wind of the helicopter landing and taking off, allowing the wind to carry the fuel vapors away from the site. The drainage, do not put the equipment in a place where the spill will drain into the stream or river. Choose the part of the site with the firm enough to support the weight of the aircraft and the fuel drums. Camouflage is the only protection provided at a fair point in a combat zone. Site features are depending upon them because the airlifting and the camouflage materials is not practicable. Alright, site preparation. All sticks and stones and debris should be cleared from the area to prevent the fire from clear of the dry grass, leaves, and brush away from the pumping assembly. In some cases, the engineer personally prepare the site. Once all equipment is on the site, lay out the fair system in the way that best in the specific situation. Tailor out the laid out, avoid obstacles, take advantage of the terrain features, achieve maximum dispersion, operate with restricted amount of space. The only mandatory feature of the fair system, the space between the aircraft. The figure 5.1 suggests the sequence set up as follows: position, pump filter separated, ground pump filter separated, same old discharge hose assembled, dispensing points connecting the two 500-gallon collapsible drums, position, fire extinguisher. And Part C, quality surveillance. The quality and cleanness of the turbine fuel are the vital safety turbine engine powered aircraft. The turbine engines have more stringent cleanliness requirements than the reciprocating engines because the turbine engines have high fuel consumption rates. Contaminations accumulate with rapidly. Determined the engine filters cannot be removed from fine sediment. Excessive amounts of sediment, water from fuel, separating the contaminants of J5 and JP8 is time-consuming. Further, they complicated with a high viscosity, specific gravity. The unit organization, military-owned aviation fuel and physical position responsibility, establishing, maintain adequate quality surveillance program. Each position person involved with the aircraft refueling responsibility, ensuring the fuel pumped into the aircraft is clean, bright. Specification does not contain free water or sediment. Quality surveillance testing, sampling are used to find the contamination hazards. The hazards may affect the aircraft, sediment, water, biological growth, commingled fuel. Since each engine designed to burn one particular type or grade of fuel, the consequences of using a mixture of the different fuels can range from small variations in engine performance to total loss of power, engine failure. The consequences of commingling depend on the physical properties of the fuel. Sampling and testing. How often the aviation fuels are sampled and tested, depending on several factors, depending upon whether the fuels of the fuel source, system, refueler, aircraft tank of the fuel supplies must be tested on confirming the identities of the API gravity detected with the aqua glow test and the particular contamination by color comparator ratings. Samples of fuels depends to the aircraft should be contained with no more than 10 fibers. When one quart sample is usually visually examined. The aviation fuel contamination test kit is designed to provide a final check of the aviation fuel just before the fueling on the aircraft. It includes the API gravity test, the aqua glow test, a millipore test, a test of particular contamination. Fueling the aircraft must be checked by aircraft crew before flight operations begun. With the type of taking a pre-flight sample is one way of ensuring the fuel on the board does not contain water or other visible contaminations. Any fuel that fails visual check should be segregated and held until laboratory tests are received. To check a fuel, choose the cleaning sample bottle, draw a fresh sample, visually inspect it, test it in debris, form, matter, or water. Laboratory testing ensures the fuel's quality specifications, unknown products, existing potential contamination causes, identified unfavorable field test results, corroborated, and off specifications fuels are not used. Part D, maintaining communications. Communications is single non-equipment related that it can be enabled to forward area refueling equipment site to the major factors successful mission. The communication multiple level. Unless they otherwise directed, you are responsible for informing the chain of command of the following. When the site becomes operational, when the site is shut down for any reason before scheduled shutdown time, report on status operation. Any problem encountered is required in the unit policy procedure. When the site is shut down, it's indicated with the operation orders. And the site is shut down. Part E, supervising operation of the fair. The fair system should primarily read the operation as soon as they are laid out. The fuel system has been sampled. There should be at least 3 people in addition with the ATC Pathfinder presenting during the refueling operation. At least 2 of the people should hold the MOS 77F. The proper procedure of refueling an aircraft are as follows. Land the aircraft, check to see if the armaments of the aboard the aircraft have been set to safe. Deplane the crew passenger, only pilot that remains of the aircraft. Defueling, refueling if required. Crew members may assist the refueling manning by the fire extinguisher. Position of the fire extinguisher on the side of the aircraft with the fill port. Turn off the radios. The pilots may monitor the radio use in the air traffic control, but must not transmit while actual refueling is taking place. The pilot and the chief of the crew may talk to the intercom during the refueling. Ground and bound with the nozzle of the aircraft. It should never be attached to the radio antenna or to a propeller. Remove the dust cap of the nozzle. Remove the plug plug from the aircraft fill port, begin refueling can be certain to the observer the safety precautions associated with a closed circuit open port refueling, as the case may be. Replace the aircraft fill port plug, replace the nozzle caps and plugs, move the nozzle bung, carry the nozzle back to its hangar, move the fire extinguisher aboard the crews and passengers, direct the aircraft to lift off. Additionally, you are required to monitor the fuel stocks accountability procedure, rendering the status report as required in unit policy. If any leaking hazard conditions are found in the system, should be shut down, properly corrected before resuming the operation. All spills and must be cleaned up. The report is required in unit policies, procedures, applicable environmental laws. Suppose contaminated fuels, materials, environmental safe way in accordance with the unit policy, procedure, applicable environmental laws. You must also ensure that during the and after the preventive maintenance check services are done, the DA Form 2404, DA Form 59 88E and equipment inspection maintenance worksheet is noted with any of the false deficiencies found. The completed DA Form 2404 and DA Form 5988E is returned to the motor pool with the equipment. Part F, safety. Switching the fuel. Switching fuel means supply of the aircraft with the fuel with flammability characteristics different from which is already in the tank. The flammability characteristic of the mixed fuel will be different from the two fuels involved. The danger if that is spark should occur with the tank of the vapor mixture above the fuel may be in the flammable range. Explosion could result the aircraft to be switch fuel. The rate of flow in the nozzle should not exceed 50% of the rate of flow changing the JP after the kerosene grade fuel also can constitute switching fuel. Heat. Aircraft vehicles engine powered equipment generates the burning of the fuel to generate the static electricity between the friction between the moving parts of the engine. Heat of the idling aircraft turbine engine is an auto ignition range of the JP4. Poorly maintained vehicles engines may backfire discharge sparks. Do not allow the work to be done on aircraft batteries while aircraft is being refueled. Aircraft radios operate with receiving message during the refueling, but the radio transmission for the aircraft are not allowed to make because of the danger of arcing. Do not use flashlights with 50 feet of refueling operation unless they are approved the explosion-proof type. Do not allow the electrical hand tools to be used in the refueling area. The electrical circuits to use over the tools of refueling operation must be maintained in top condition to prevent shorting circuits around the defects. Any addition with the beam of the higher frequency radar equipment can ignite inflammable vapor mixture. Open flame. During the open flame, during the danger of open flame is that it will ignite the fuel or flammable vapor mixture. It does not allow the type of the open flame any flame producing device within 50 feet of the aircraft refueling operation. Static electricity. There are two ways to prevent static electricity from sparking the chains of different materials with equalized connecting with the conductor or bonding. Also, a way can provide with the charges dissipate with the harmlessly grounding. The Army uses both of these methods controlling static electricity bonding and process, which the two conductive objectives connected with lessening the potential differences. Bonding does not dissipate static electricity, equalizes the charge of two unlike objects. In aircraft and refueling nozzle, in order to produce the arcing of the as the two objects are joined in the nozzle, two aircraft bonding with the bonding is made with the nozzle cap, dust cap on. The fuel tank is removed, and likewise do not disconnect the bond until the refueling is complete. The tank cap and the nozzle dust cap are replaced. Grounding is the process of connecting a path into the ground so that the static discharge is not trapped on the surface of the equipment. Whether the discharge is sparked with the conductive pad is made with the connecting of the conductive cable from the piece of the equipment of the conductive metal rod with driven into either the reach or the level permanent moisture common source of static electricity are identified as follows: vehicles, human body, and lightning. Air Traffic Control ATC. Air Traffic Control ATC is required safe refueling operation. Air Traffic Control is some of the other adequate training personnel is required at each of the refueling points to serve more than one aircraft. The person controls and directs the refueling traffic and the resupply of the aircraft. It provides the flight of the personnel information such as wind, direction, velocity, remaining fuel supply, enemy activity immediate with the areas that has obstruction, landing of the emergency situation, airfield, full radio communication equipment is provided with the truck unrolling aircraft at the large semi-permanent temporary refueling point with the radio control tower should be used whenever the aircraft is being refueled. In forward areas, the personal control air traffic should have the FM radio suitable to ground air and ground-to-ground communication, aircraft marshal signals, landing in the aids, necessary super and permanent and forward refueling points, then marking landing and refueling point areas in the field. Procedural principles should be followed and closely, especially forward tactical areas. Part G, environmental consideration. You may pay close attention during the fueling operations because of the potential spills and fires. Take simple precautions. You prevent large pollution problems during the refilling. You can protect the environment during the following compliance with the following the unit standing authorization procedure concerning the type of the quantities of the items you can store at the fuel point. Prevention: reduce the amount of soil contaminated during the refueling by the carefully not spilling the fuel. Reuse rags and absorbent materials. Recycle the contaminated petroleum oil, lubricated products. Conservation: dispose of the contaminated soil observation according to the installation unit policy and the unit standard authorization procedure. And once again, that was direct class 3 pipelines, Army Institute of Professional Development, subcourse 5095A. And thanks for listening.